Well, good evening, you beautiful people. I hope you're all doing really, really well. Let's go through the usual bits and pieces, which is if you can just let me know, can you see, can you hear, does everything sound okay, look okay, and then we'll get started with tonight's live stream. We'll do a couple of hellos, and you know the routine, unless of course you're new here tonight, and at which point if you want to put hashtag new into the chat, so I can say a special hello to anybody that's in new. And as always, if you've got any questions during tonight's live stream for myself or for Imran, make sure you put hashtag Q, that's hashtag Q, just so we know exactly what questions you want to ask us. So I'm going to bring Imran in now, so if you can just let me know if everything sounds okay, looks okay, and everything else is all good. Can see and hear okay. Thank you very much, Rich. So I'm going to bring my guest in. So Imran, if you want to pop in and say good evening to everybody.
Hey everyone, how you doing? I'm back again. You all know me by now, and if not, Imran Sadiq Web Squadron, here to help you design better websites for you, your business, and your clients. Yeah, I'm Imran. Hi.
Everyone knows you by now. We've become a popular duo apparently in live stream terms. So that's good. I don't know what kind of duo we're talking about, whether that's Morecambe and Wise or something. And anybody that's obviously not from the UK are probably thinking, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah. I liked Morecambe and Wise. I love them. I do. I love Morecambe and Wise. Yeah.
I like Morecambe and Wise. And my partner, she absolutely loves them. She's a massive long-term fanhood of them. So that's what I'm going to say. So before we start, I want to say a quick thank you to Jimmy, or the skating choreographer, for his email today. I'm sure you got one as well, Imran, for a blog post that he wrote about the influences or the people that are actually on YouTube that have helped him and influenced him to become a better designer, to learn new skills, those kinds of things. So I just want to say a quick thank you, Jimmy, to you for writing that, letting me know. I will be dropping you an email a little later just as a thank you. But I wanted to say it tonight in tonight's live stream. And if Imran didn't get one, you better send him one a bit quick, but I'm pretty sure he probably did.
Oh, Jimmy and me have lots of secret chats in the alleyway.
That really
Socially,
does not.
Virtual alleyway, yeah.
Okay, that doesn't sound positive virtually or in reality. It all sounds just a little bit dodgy. Anyway, so tonight we've got a couple of simple topics, but to be honest, the floor's open to you guys to ask us pretty much anything within reason. I do want to talk a little bit about a new product I can't say a new product, but a product that's recently been released, which is Code Snippets Pro, which we'll come on to in a few moments. But as always, I would love to get your feedback on that. If you've seen what that is, if you've used Code Snippets, the free version yourself over the years, what are your thoughts on the Pro version, the features that it offers? As always, let us know in the chat so we can kind of get your feedback. But I mean, have you ever used Code Snippets, Emran? I'm pretty sure you probably have.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big fan of Code Snippets, and I've always felt it's been a lifesaver, not just for me, but for my clients, especially in terms of reducing the amount of plugins I have. I mean, some of the things that you can do, like just with WooCommerce, like if you have a virtual product and you can remove some of the checkout fields, some of these things that you would love to have built in within WooCommerce, but they're not there. And by adding in a bit of code, it's so powerful, especially JavaScript. I'm scared of JavaScript, right? I run away from them. But if I know there's some, code or functionality or something like that, it's a big lifesaver. But the big thing about Code Snippets that I really, really love, whenever you drop some code in and the code is like there's a mistake or a problem, it warns you. You hit activate and it throws up a warning. You get an email and your website has not broken. Oh, yeah. And that is a massive bit of Code Snippets that makes me feel brave enough to use them. But came across it a long time ago, and I'm forever advising people, look, if you're really serious about mucking around with your website and you don't want to do a child theme, I'm one of those people, I have to put my hand up. I don't always do child themes. No. But knowing that I can do the changes within Code Snippets, it's just a lifesaver.
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of a tool like Code Snippets and any of the other ones out there that do a similar kind of thing, is that it gives you that peace of mind knowing that you don't need to worry about child themes. You can, if you put something in there and it does break or it updates at some point, or your theme updates or the plugin updates or whatever it is you're kind of targeting with it, you have a peace of mind knowing that it shouldn't take your site down. So yeah. If anybody's never used Code Snippets, I mean, basically Code Snippets is a plugin. There's a free version and a pro version, which was released this week, which basically allows you to put in JavaScript, CSS, HTML code, target the front end of your WordPress website, the back end, both. So if you were using plugins, for example, to change certain aspects of WooCommerce, it could be something as simple as take off the sale price or something like that. A lot of the time, all you need is to tap into the functions PHP file, and inside there, you could drop a little bit of code, which is freely available online, drop that into your functions PHP file, save it, and that will do what you've asked it to do, which is great. But the problem with that is if you don't use a child theme, is that it means that when your theme updates, the functions PHP file generally updates, and that means any changes that you've made will be lost. So that's where, as Imran was just saying, about using a child theme, they're great and they're useful, but it is an extra step, whereas a plugin like, sort of code snippets gives you that functionality with peace of mind that if anything goes wrong, it's not going to break your site. It's easy to sort of rectify things. And if the code screws anything up, you can still generally log into the dashboard of your WordPress website, edit, update, or remove or deactivate that little block of code, and you are back up and running in double quick time. So it gives you that peace of mind knowing that, you don't have to stress about things breaking.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to mention, though, to anyone that wasn't aware of this, but when you do page speed performance, one of the most annoying recommendations you get is reduce unused JavaScript.
Yeah.
Everyone gets that. There is a tiny bit of code snippet you can add to code snippets that actually reduces the unused JavaScript.
Okay.
So I don't need to sit there hunting for it. I just drop this code in and it can, all right, it might only improve the score by about 5% or so, but I want that 5%.
Yeah.
So again, it's the beauty of snippets. It can make a big difference.
Yeah, like you say, I mean, it's only 5%, but the reality is if that takes you 30 seconds to drop a little code snippet in and you save 5%, that 5% can be the difference between making a sale and losing a sale. There's lots of reasons why.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I think, it's important that if you don't want to go down the route of using, sort of child themes and things like that, take a look at tools like code snippets. Like I say, the free version gives you an absolute shed load of features, and it's probably more than enough for most users. Which kind of leads me on to two things. The Pro version was released recently, and I know Imran's done is doing some content, if not has done content on it. So I just want to kind of get your thoughts on what you think about it. And the other thing is, I may have Verdi, who's one of the people behind Code Snippets, on a live stream in the next couple of weeks once the cloud-based features are released. Can't guarantee it. I spoke to him yesterday and asked him if he wanted to come on and answer your questions. So if anybody's interested in finding out what the future of Code Snippets Pro is and all those kinds of things, hopefully I'll have Verdi on a live stream. And I'd be more than happy to get myself and Imran and Verdi on a 3-way chat on a live stream if you guys are interested in that. As always, let me know in the chat section. And if you're watching the replay, let me know in the comment section underneath the video. So what are your thoughts on what's kind of planned for the Pro version? Let's just forget about pricing and those kinds of things. Let's just talk about features and forget those other things. So what are your thoughts on the direction it's going in? How do you think it's going to launch? Do you think there's ways of improving what we think is the offering right now? We don't know 100% which direction, and it's still very much in a state of flux, as it were. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, so I have spoken to Verdi about this quite closely over his plans and what he's trying to achieve with the Code Snippets Pro. And he has got a plan in terms of having eventually a community. Well, there's two things really. One is eventually having like a cloud area whereby you can store all of your codes, and whenever you're working on any future website, you will literally connect to your cloud. And if you've stored, say, 50 code snippets for loads of different themes and plugins and features, you can just go tick, 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 and it will then activate on your website. So I can see that being beneficial if you're struggling to store your code. The other thing, though, the second thing, which I think is the biggest selling point, is eventually having this community. Whenever you want to get a code snippet, if you haven't got one readily available, you tend to go onto Google, and Google will give you loads of results, and often you're not too sure, right, okay, here's a bit of code. Has that been audited? Does it work? It was 5 years old. Is it still current, maybe? And if we could eventually have like one for WooCommerce, Jet Engine, I don't know, loads of little snippets, even just for Elementor, that allowed you to go a little bit extra. So we're not saying that you're going to totally stop using, say, the WooCommerce subscription plugin, which has loads and loads of features. But if there was a snippet that allowed me to add WooCommerce subscriptions without having to use a third-party plugin, hey, I'd be up for that. And if we had a community where people were now contributing and becoming experts, so I use the My Listing directory theme a lot for directories. I have tons of snippets that I've got that loads of people don't even know about. Maybe there'd be a community thread for that. So I think going forwards, if it means now that we all can go to one location to get the right snippets, like you might have one, Paul, that none of us know about, that you actively use a lot, and you could stick it on there, and it could be a game changer in terms of the way we build websites. But it's not there yet. I would like to think Verdi gets that done ASAP. I know he's got plans for it, but I think that'd be great. I'd love to contribute to it.
Yeah, I know you and I were talking about this via chat a couple of days ago, and I think that would really be a good way of creating a community of engaged users. You know, how you reward users for, I mean, maybe there's upvoted sort of snippets of the month kind of thing, you know, different features that you can sort of upvote and people find them useful, and therefore there's some kind of reward, whether, you know, however that kind of takes it. Yeah, the R2D2. Who tried to out Star Wars who? You know, so I think having that community aspect, and if that's kind of where they want to go with it, or if they don't think they want to go with it, I think there's potential there for it. The only downside, or the only sort of tripping thing I can see there is the amount of time it may take to audit, test, and check the code before they make it go live. So you kind of, my sort of like first thing is, how much money would it cost to have someone or some people actively checking that code, and when things invariably change and break, who goes back to that code and checks that code out and goes, okay, well, there's a problem, we need to update it with the new version? And is that going to be something that the Code Snippets Pro people would do? Or do you know what I mean? It's like, I think the idea and the concept would be a real strength, but the logistics of it, I wonder how viable it would realistically be financially to be able to do that and maintain it long term.
So at the moment, I don't think he has many people at the moment supporting him on the back end or the admin side of things, and I wonder if it's going to go down a bit like, so with the Elementor Facebook group, they are mainly volunteers. They are non-paid volunteers. But then at the same time, if you had a thread for WooCommerce, someone, whenever there's a new bit of code comes in, has got to basically audit it before it goes live, visible on the website. So there's time, there's attention, and it's a very good point you make there, because what if there's a code on there and it's valid, it works, but then 2 months down the line, Elementor has an update, WooCommerce has an update. All of a sudden, is that snippet still valid? So who's going to go through and double check all of that? But yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah.
Like I say, I think that's the Achilles heel of the idea. Like I say, hopefully it'll be one of those things that they're looking at that as an option, and they're looking at ways in which they can run, maintain, monitor, and update something like that. However they kind of look to implement it, if they look at implementing it. But I think that's where the strength would lie. If you had one location you could literally log into, you could search, as Mark says, you know, you want a UI that allows you to search and those kinds of things, that makes it easy to find what you're looking for. So again, the organizational side of it, take away the technical search side, but the organizational side of how people would search, especially where you may be looking at multiple languages. You know, the more we talk about this, the more you kind of think, oh, actually, it's a good idea, but bloody, there's a lot of barriers in there.
It is, yeah. And I mean, I really do wish Verdi a lot of love and support in this, because he's always been such a lovely chap with what he does with Elementor behind the scenes and on the forums and everything like that. And I'm pretty sure when you do have that live chat, he'll have a new hairstyle. He'll come up, he'll be styled all differently, but I really wish him all the best for it, and I hope it takes off and does great things for him and Code Snippets, mainly because it's a plugin that a lot of us know about, And I do wish that he had done this maybe, 8 or 9 years ago, early on. But he's got a lot of competition. There will be people that have doubts about it. But I think, the quicker he can get that community set up and organized in a really good way, then hopefully it will work. Yeah, Carapos has asked about where is the container. You're not going to get an answer to that, Carapos. The Flex container ain't happening yet. We chat about this every day, Carapos, but it ain't happening yet, so stop asking.
Where's the container? It's in bricks.
Yeah. Oh, okay, here we go.
Along with the div and the section. So that's all I'm going to say. And I literally recorded the video yesterday. I mean, I know you're an Elementor fan, and I totally get that. I appreciate that. But I did the video yesterday, and at one point I sort of said about the three things, and I did a little section, are you listening to this Elementor kind of thing? And I thought, no, I'm actually going to cut that out of it, because it's like, it doesn't bring anything to the video. But it's just one of those things. It's like, my natural instinct is, come on, get with the program, bring this thing out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we spoke about this before. Hopefully, when what are we up to now? We're on 3.6 right now. 3.7 is the next major release.
Yeah.
Hopefully, when 3.7 comes out, it'll at least be pushed into beta.
I have a bad feeling that it's nowhere near. I just have this really bad feeling. And Carapos always threatens to jump from Elementor to bricks, but
do it.
I think he's holding out. Bless him. I'm keeping him in line at the moment.
Yeah, behind the scenes, you'll do what I say, Bob. You'll do what I say. Yeah. It is one of those things that there's been a couple of really interesting points of view. And I think you were involved in this conversation. I think it was on my Facebook group, where people are sort of saying, do they really want to bring out the container, or are they just testing things to see what the reaction is? And the reality is they want to keep it simpler in the way that it is right now, to remove confusion for maybe users that are not what you may consider sort of more intermediate level and understanding Flexbox and CSS Grid and those kinds of things. Thoughts?
I feel like they were testing the water. I think they went out with a real marketing push, because it just felt like they're testing it, seeing what opinions are. But the amount of bugs there still are in it, in terms of images overlapping, right margin, videos, and none of them have been fixed. The only fixes occurred between 3.6.1 and 3.6.3. After that, there's been nothing fixed, because I keep checking some of the bugs. And I do wonder if it was just testing the water. And then again, you can almost argue that if people are still buying Elementor Pro and they're still getting users, they might kind of go, well, we know other bits of kit do it as well. And, is bricks on the same level as Elementor? Depending on opinions of what they think, they might go, well, they're still playing catch up. Gutenberg will take another 10 years to catch up completely. By that time, we'll be an Elementor universe. Forget the cloud. So I do wonder, though, but I keep hoping that when we get to Elementor Pro 4, we have the final version, because that would be a massive, big change in the ecosystem. But I have this just bad feeling that, it is now, 6 months since it came out. And, poor Carapos, he is having babies waiting for it to happen. And I keep telling him, just shut up. It ain't happening yet.
Yeah. That's the party line. Just shut up, forget about it, move on. It's never going to happen. It'll happen, but it never happen. It'll happen. No, it won't happen. Yeah, I remember now, it was actually Mark that did the post originally on my Facebook group saying, I can't believe it's 6 months since the alpha was released. Yeah. So, this is a good one from Jamie. Container is lighter than sections in the sections on Elementor, but so frustrating to use compared to bricks and even Divi. And that's kind of strange to consider. Take bricks out of it, because I think, I've talked about bricks many times in the past, and because they're earlier in development and they have less of a user base currently compared to something like Elementor, it does technically make it a little easier for them to be able to introduce such massive changes. Totally appreciate that. But it is kind of strange to consider what Jamie's saying there, is that it's actually easier to use it in other tools over Elementor.
I have to say, though, that when I got my head around the whole container with Elementor, it took me a couple of hours to really think differently a bit with it. I loved it. And I've done some tutorials on where you can have so much content within just one. You don't even need a container within a container.
No.
Just one container, your rows, your wrapping, your custom whips. If you get your head around custom whips, whether you're using sections or containers, doesn't matter. You get your head around that, and the power, the stuff you can do is unbelievable. And I think that, I would say, Jamie, when you say it's frustrating, is that just because you're getting used to it? Or was there something in particular that frustrates? So please do let us know. Was there anything in particular that frustrated you? And George has just mentioned that he uses Divi, but I think we should block and kick George out of the chat now because he's a Divi fan.
Yeah, I could ban him right now if you want me to.
No, we'll let him off.
Sure?
George is a good guy. Yeah, George is good. We'll leave him.
You could bring the ban hammer out. Just little tap on top of the head. Is it? Goodbye. Yeah. Hey, look, I totally agree with you, because I released my original video on the sort of like when it was originally released. There was kind of like a first look at the feature and talk about the feature and those kinds of things. And I think it was about a month ago, I actually went back and thought, right, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another video now that shows you the right way to look at using the container feature. Because as you said, what people were doing and what the converter does inside Elementor is it converts it into basically a container version of the inner sections and everything. So yes, you get a little reduction in the amount of code, but it's not the right way of working. So if you have 3 columns, like you say, you can easily use just simple containers and positioning and so on inside the container to do what you want. But what's happening there is you've got the container with containers inside it, and inside there you've then got the widgets, and it all starts to get just a little bit redundant. So I kind of like, well, let's actually take a look at the right way of using these tools. So things like navigation, where you want your logo to the left-hand side, your navigation to the right, you use one container and 2 widgets.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But whereas before you would have used a container, and not a container, but you would use a section, and inside there you would have probably put an inner section, or you would have split that sort of section into 2 columns, and and it all like, there's all that extra code that's kind of pointless. And
exactly.
I think once you start to understand Flexbox, which does take, don't get me wrong, it does, I still look at it and go, which way round am I going to do so and so? And you do just kind of look at it because it's not natural right now.
Yeah,
exactly. It will become, but it's like, it does take a little bit of getting used to and a little bit of forward planning, in the same way that when it comes to like dynamic content, you have to plan. You can't just literally start sticking plugins in there and creating custom post types and meta fields willy-nilly. You have to plan what you're trying to do. And I think the same applies to working with a container or container sections and divs, however you want to sort of brand it up, kind of thing. But Jamie's come back. Jamie's come back to us now and said, the main frustration with setting styling with different viewports, but it's simple to use, but have some issues with the containers clumping together on the phone viewport, for example. Yeah. It's still...
I mean, I would say, though, when that happens, just have a think about your distance. When I can't remember what it's called now. Something distance, between your widgets and your custom width. And you do have to mess around a bit, but... I'm just echoing what Paul has said with regards to how you can do so much with just one container. It's a bit crazy. But again, if you're very used to section columns, you've got to kind of break out of that mindset. But the fact that we don't have the final version yet means I'm still working with section columns. I'm a bit afraid to build client websites with Flex Container in case there's a massive change 2 months down the line.
That's the thing. It's like I see a lot of people. Excuse me, I'm just replying to a comment. I see a lot of people sort of saying they're using the container element and they've had no problems with stuff. I'm thinking, whoa, that really is risky. With, like we say, we don't know if it's even going to be included in the future version. So you could literally be building clients' websites, and they go, we decided not to use that. We're going to use something completely different, or we're just going to stay the way we are. And it's like, boom. Are you going to do a reverse converter? Are we going to have that kind of thing? So it's like, that's kind of risky to kind of go down that route. I would say, and as I've always said, and I'm sure you have as well, is don't use the container on a live production or a client site. Test it, use it on staging sites, whatever you want to do to get used to it, play around with it. And then if it moves into beta and finally into final, if it ever does, then you're kind of in a strong position where you can then move forward. But I think right now, it's just really asking for potential problems going down that route.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. And please remember, everyone, it's in alpha.
Yeah.
We're not even in beta yet before we even get final. And the way it goes, it could be a year. You know, I mean, we still don't have mega menu. We don't have where's mega menu? So, you know, God knows what the roadmap is for that at the moment.
Yeah. Right, I've got a question now, which I know. Have you ever actually tried bricks? I'm just out of curiosity. Have you ever tried it, or are you sort of like firmly in the Elementor camp?
No, I've seen it, and based on comments from Carapos and a few others, I have said when I know my diary has a bit of when I know I'm going to have a couple of days just free with nothing going on, I do want to have a look at it. Mainly because of what other people have said and on the back of what you've said as well. I just want to play with it and just realise just how good it is that I've got Elementor.
Well, when you are ready, let me know and I'll spin up a copy on one of the servers and just take it from. Honestly, I think you might be surprised how, if you're coming from Elementor and you do become used to working with the sort of the container.
Yeah,
I think you'll be surprised how natural it actually feels. Yes, there's still some rough edges. No one's saying any different. I mean, compare this to what Elementor was in version 1 to version 2. You know, the pro version and the free version, I suppose, to some extent. Yeah. But when you kind of consider version 2 was a massive leap forward. You know, that's where dynamic content was brought in, templating was brought in, all those kinds of things. When you kind of look at bricks having all that and a custom loop builder, conditional logic is coming in the next 1 or 2 major revisions.
Exactly.
You know, full control over pretty much all WooCommerce aspects, divs, sections, containers, all that stuff is included. It's incredibly impressive. You know, and I'm not trying to sway you away from using Elementor. I know you're a staunch Elementor user. But I think, honestly, take a look at it because I think you may really surprise yourself. I'm sure there's going to be things that you think Elementor does that better, and I would totally agree. There are still things that that just doesn't make sense to me at the moment. But what it's bringing to the table in such an early product with such a great community around it is inspiring. And I know when I've talked to Verdi and things like that, I really wish those days would kind of come back because you've been in Elementor for a long time, same as me, and going back to where in the Elementor 1 to 2 days. The community it felt exciting. It felt, you had members of Elementor were involved in it, and you had Yoni and stuff like that would share my tweets and things and would come back with comments and feedback and stuff like that. And I kind of feel like all that's now been left to, as you said at the beginning of the stream, those sort of non-paid moderators to kind of take on that mantle. And there's a big difference because they're ultimately users like you and I, you know, and they're doing their best to answer questions and help and support and doing a great job of it. Agreed, but it's different. Yeah. It's not the company. And there honestly feels like quite a disconnect between the company and the people that you know in that company. Like since Ben left, for example, I think that's had a big impact because he was, for a long, long time, the face of Elementor, regardless of what his job was. But he was the face of it. And I think that's been lost too, which is sad.
Yeah, and he wasn't just a face of it. He actually was able to answer a lot of questions as well. I mean, I saw him do quite a few blog posts as well and stuff and presenting. And so he really knew his stuff. And I do think you're right there in that, you know, often the moderators will only give you the best answer they know either, but you don't actually know, is that the real reason for why there was an issue, or is that the right fix even? So you would like to think that ever since the Elementor Community Hub shut down that they used to have, that they would have put more experts from the business to be more involved in the Facebook group, but it just seems like that just hasn't happened at the moment. So I mean, I am definitely willing to give bricks a go. And if I end up jumping between the two, then so be it. I mean, the fact that there's more you can do with WooCommerce does get me excited because I do get a bit frustrated with how you either end up using a third-party tool or code snippets to kind of get stuff to be a little bit different. Because to be honest, the Elementor widgets you get with WooCommerce, they are very limited.
Very.
And the fact it took them so long to get out a cart and checkout feature, we were crying out for it. And even when we got it, they're great, they're good, but they're not that amazing. Like even the accounts one, it's good, but it doesn't really. All it does is give you a bit of styling. It doesn't really allow you to
move things around, turn things. Yeah, exactly. I think that was my criticism when they released it. It's like when you look at the first half of the WooCommerce side of things, that give you control over the layout of pretty much every aspect of your sort of archive, your product archive page and your product page. And that was good. Do you know what I mean? That give you all the tools you needed to do pretty much everything you'd want in there, within reason, but what a page builder would give you. But then when they brought out the account, the checkout, and those kinds of things, they literally gave you two skins, and you couldn't even disable fields. You kind of think
exactly.
Even the free version, I think, of Woolentor or Woolumentor or whatever they're now called, I'm pretty sure even the free versions of those give you the ability in the checkout page to be able to disable the fields. And you're kind of thinking those things, and you can do it through code snippets or through editing your functions PHP file, and it's literally just a little sort of 3 lines of code, job done. But the fact of the matter is that would have been so much easier to have it included where you can literally just put the bits and pieces, because we know all these tools do the same thing. They literally have each of the element components of the checkout, the cart page, the account.
Yeah.
They're made up of maybe sort of like half a dozen different pieces for the checkout. And they just allow you to move them around, style them, turn some things off, reorder the fields and so on. Even if they just come up with something like that, which I can't imagine would have had any kind of breaking features, because that's the first approach of making any changes to those particular template pages. So it was kind of like a little bit, I didn't understand why they kind of really didn't bring anything to the table there. It's just like, there's 2 styles and you can move a couple of bits around and change some colors and typography, and that's basically it.
I think there's always this little bit of a danger that, and I know many people comment on this, in that some of the features that come out, when we first see them, we go, oh, that's nice, but then that's it. Like the notes, So the notes feature that came out, we're like, oh, that's nice, but then we go, well,
what's the point?
Was it really needed? We're not crying out for it. We can live without it. There's other tools, there's other ways to do things. Was it really needed? And I'd love to know how many people here are actively using the notes feature in Elementor with their clients. I know I'm not, but... No.
I don't think I would either. I think it's too limited to really make it of any real serious use. And again, I'm sure they will address it. I'm sure they will bring some of those features that we're talking about. But the problem is, it's like, how long do you have to wait? If you've literally got a product that is doing a small amount, and then therefore you go, I actually can't do anything with it, so I'm going to go and buy a third-party tool, and I'm going to start using that. Most people are going to kind of stick with that because they get used to it, they're comfortable with it, and then as we know, that's where you kind of then open up the potential problems where updates have conflicts and so on, and we get into that loop then of I know a lot of people want to have core features in the core version of Elementor or any page builder, not just Elementor, any page builder. But I've always said the same thing. If you're going to do it all. If it takes you longer, fine, take longer. But tell the community, look, we could release it right now and it would have these features. But we want to give you the best. So it's going to take us a little bit longer.
Yeah, what we're missing is... we're missing a board where we can upvote features.
Yeah.
So what we're missing is something where we go, right, here's the 20 things that we are actively working on and we're putting our resources. What do you want to see more of? And if the community started upvoting flex containers or mega menus or whatever more than other stuff, then that's just the way it should be, really. You know, and it's like there, loop builders, how long until we get calculated and conditional logic on Elementor forms?
Yeah.
Like even Forminator, which is a free plugin, has a PayPal and Stripe built in to a basic form. That should be an Elementor form now. Why we haven't even got that? So it's like, they get that stuff done. Bricks will fall over. It won't really. I'm just saying
No,
that. I'm just saying
no.
that.
Like I know I champion bricks, and a lot of people know that I champion bricks, and it's not because I don't think any of the other products are not good. I still use Elementor. I still like Elementor. I think the biggest frustration, and I'm sure a lot of other people feel this, is not specifically with the product. It's more to do with the lack of transparency around, well, the fact there is no roadmap, so we have no idea of development, what's coming next. And I totally understand. I mean, coming from someone that designed and built my own CMS years ago, I understand the dependencies and how adding something can break something else, or adding something here isn't as straightforward because it has a knock-on effect with other aspects. But I think this is where, because there really feels like a lack of any kind of transparency between, Elementor company and users, buyers, there's kind of like that disconnect. And I think that's probably where a lot of the frustration comes in is, when you do look at bricks, and forget about the product, but look at the community, there's a link between the roadmap, what people upvote on it, feedback, and all of those things go hand in hand. And I think that's probably one of the key reasons why bricks has picked up such a following. Is not necessarily because the product is the perfect fit for everybody. Because the number of times you see people go like, I love what bricks is doing, but it's not there. I couldn't use it for production yet because it's obviously missing some of the features that they want. But when people are buying that product on its future because they see the way the product is being developed, how the community is listened to, and there's a genuine link between the community and the developers, that goes an awful long way. And I think that's what Elementor definitely had back in that 1 to 2, version 1 to version 2, where there was a much more transparent level of integration between community and developers, company, that kind of thing. And I think it really is quite sad that that's been lost, because I think it's been underestimated how important that is to the company and how people feel about it.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Yeah, and I'm just making a note here I have magnets that I stick on a board, you see, for upcoming videos. So I'm going to do a video now about how do we get Elementor to create an upvote system or something. How do we do it? What do we want to see? What are the top 20 things we all want to see, kind of thing, And
maybe the tutorial should be
on
maybe the tutorial should be how to actually build an upvoting system using Elementor, dynamic content, and a loop. And then there's going to see, now if you had all these things in there, look how good this would be.
Yeah, wow. Okay, wow. I'll have a think about that challenge. But yeah, no. But I think it is just like, and something Tyler's put on there is something I've been wondering, why have Elementor not done it? Is that so many plugins out there, add-ons, have the facility for you to deactivate what widgets you're not using. I cannot work out why we don't have that yet in Elementor. I'd love to know the impact that could make on your DOMs and page speed and what's being loaded. Because I use asset cleanup if I've got a website with quite a few stuff going on. But I'm always scared to turn anything off relating to Elementor because half of them don't make any sense to me. And I'm scared to deactivate any part of the asset cleanup. When it says you could... Elementor has about 40 things and none of them make sense.
Yeah.
But if there was a way to just stop, like hotspot, there's no hotspots on the website. I don't need them to be there. How do I get rid of it?
Yeah, turn it off. Turn it. The thing is, I know I've spoken about this in previous live streams, but we've never spoken about it. The one thing I always wish that Elementor had done is that they developed the product in a modular fashion. And this like I say, this goes for probably any page builder, or sort of site builder, whatever you want to kind of call the different things. Whereas you've got the core that gives you your containers, your divs, however you want to set that up, your text, your headings, images, videos, the key things that you need to be able to create a site. And that is Elementor core. And then if you want to use WooCommerce with it and you want to be able to create custom template pages and custom sort of archive pages and customize your account stuff, you get the Elementor add-on. So if you don't use it, you get the WooCommerce add-on. So if you're not using WooCommerce, it's not installed, it's not loaded. So therefore, you don't have anything to do with those kinds of things being involved in your site at all. And the same thing goes for dynamic content. If you have no intention of using custom post types, meta fields, or any of that, don't load it, don't install it, don't do anything with it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? And I would have loved, I don't think I've seen a page builder that I've tested out anyway that's taken that approach. And it's obviously can be done because if you've got the free version and you've got the pro version and you've got an API so third-party companies can tap into your API to create extra features, modules, widgets, and those kinds of features, it's doable. So why not create a core product and tap into your own API to add in the extra features in a modular fashion that allows people to say, I want to create a WooCommerce site with dynamic content, and therefore I'll add those 2 extra plugins to the core Elementor.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. I mean, it'd be even good. It would be even nicer if Elementor could, via your WordPress, detect that you don't have WooCommerce installed. Therefore, those extra widgets are not pulled through, kind of thing. It makes total sense. Why would you need them if you've not got WooCommerce on there? So it's I'll get another video done on that. How do we turn everything off? I know there's extra plugins, but you shouldn't have to resort to an extra plugin to turn things off. Because I know some of them aren't that reliable. But again, it's like we shouldn't have to mess around with that.
No, but also they say they turn them off, but are they just turning them off in the back end and disabling disabling the widget's accessibility, but it's still being loaded on the front end? Because
that's what I think. Yeah, that's what I think. I'm never convinced. I'm never fully convinced. What is it doing? Is it just a visual thing, like you said?
Yeah. Which would probably be, because you kind of think if you were creating a product to do that, and Elementor is updating so frequently, they're going to change one thing in there, and that renders your entire plugin either obsolete or breaks it. So you kind of have to think that's really a bit of a sort of like a fine line to tread with potentials for problems. So yeah, I think it's more of it's just visually disabling them to make the editor cleaner. But again, even that would be nice, because you've probably been the same as me. You've probably got a core of maybe 20 widgets that you use on an everyday basis, and all the rest you never use.
Don't care. Absolutely. Embed Facebook. Who uses that? Who uses that? There are some features on there you look at and go, I've never used it, never intend to use it. Why is it still there? So I think a good cleanup is needed.
Yeah, it would be nice. And I know that, and this is an upselling point, and I get it, but it really frustrates me when you install the free version and it still installs all of the icons for all of the widgets for the pro version with a padlock on them. It's like, I get the whole point, I get why you want to upsell, but it's bloody annoying.
But it's I do as well. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple of questions now. We're going to go through just some of the questions, and if anybody's got more questions, remember #Q for question. And then we can sort of filter those out, and we can quickly and easily see what questions you're asking for either myself or Imran, or just general questions about, web design, business, those kinds of things. So I'm going to go back to David's question because I popped it up on screen and we got sidetracked into something else. So the Bricks Builder container element was regarded as a big improvement. Now the 1.5 change adds sections and divs. What are your thoughts on upcoming improvements to designing a new site? Let me just quickly say, first of all, that going for not just having a container and having sections, containers, and divs is all using exactly the same thing. It's all the same technology. They're all just basically divs. It's just how they've referenced and how semantically they're actually put into the code. So I think it's more a case of, I don't think it's going to be a game-changing change. I think it just means that now, instead of, like I demonstrated in yesterday's video, whereas normally you'd put a container in and then you set that to be full width to stretch, and then you'd probably put another container inside it and then 3 other containers inside there, and you set those to be a row and you'd have them all lined up as nice columns. You don't need to do that now. You can literally just insert a section that inputs a container inside it, automatically stretches it to full width, and then you can add the divs inside should you need to. So all it's really doing is it's giving you a more visual way of semantically creating the same kind of layout, but just making it easier to understand And if anybody's looking at the code is generally easier to understand as opposed to everything just being a container. So that's kind of my understanding with it. So I don't think it makes any real technical difference. You still create the designs and layers in the same way. It's just from a semantic point of view, it's a little bit better. And it's also just a bit more logical for our brains to kind of understand the difference between a section, a container, and a div. That's basically it.
Yeah, okay. I agree with you on that, yeah.
Okay, so we've got Peter is asking us probably a really important question, which I'm going to let you answer first of all. So, Star Wars, Star Trek for you guys.
Star Wars always, but I have to say I'm a big fan of Star Trek as well, but I love Star Wars more. And I just wanted to let you all know that in 1986, Star Trek 2 was on TV. I was about 8 years old. My dad said it's time to go to bed. I went to bed. I said, record. I was halfway through the movie, The Wrath of Khan, and he recorded it. The next morning, I came down to have my breakfast, and he said to me, Spock's dead. And I was like, what do you mean Spock's dead? What do you mean? He completely spoiled the movie for me as a kid. But I'm a big fan of the Kirk and Spock era, but Star Wars just wins by a mile. You know, I saw Star Wars when I was 4.5 years old. It was a life changer. It's literally was a life changer in the way I saw life. It just changed the way I live, basically.
Well, I've got to say,
I do like both.
That's fair enough. I like Star Trek as well. I will say this is a pointless fact now, but when I was a kid, I watched the original Star Wars movie over 100 times. So I could probably sit there now and I could probably recite most of the words. If I put the film on now, and I haven't seen it for years, if I put the film on, I could probably still sit there and recite pretty much every line to it. Yes, wow. You could say I'm a nerd and you'd be 100% spot on.
Nerds rule. We rule. We rule.
They do. And obviously Lego nerds rule as well now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, sorry, David, I think I misunderstood your question. Saying, I enjoyed your video. My question was more along the lines of Flexbox, etc. Thoughts?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer this in a slightly different way. Flexbox, the way you work with it makes it almost easier for you to think differently in how you build in terms of row columns, wrapping and all of that, custom widths and layout. And it's meant to be using less code than if you use sections and columns, because with sections and columns, we're hardwired into going section, maybe an inner section, or you're going to have multiple columns when you never needed to do that. Now, I have done in some videos recently where I've put tons of stuff into just one section, one column, loads of stuff by using custom whips and layouts and stuff like that. So for me, Flexbox, all it does is force us to do things differently, but you could have done it in the old way. But the trouble is that we were so used to going section, column 1, column 2, column 3. So it just gets us to think differently, doing something we already could have done, but technically it is using less code. But sometimes I look at it and go, well, one section, one column, and one container. Well, it's just names. It's just words at the end of the day. I haven't gone in depth into doing checks on the amount of code that's written, but believe me, I think I don't know, I'm not even answering the question now, but I think Flexbox containers is a great way of being versatile. But if we weren't hardwired into doing section and columns, and you realize you can do a lot with one section and one column, we would have been doing Flexbox styling with section and columns. But we're now thinking differently. I don't know if that answers the question. I'm still thinking about Star Wars and Star Trek, sorry.
So all back to the Wrath of Khan and being 8 years old.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Ruined my life, that did.
We should say, spoiler alert, Spock is dead. But apparently he's not dead.
Yes.
It's just a time paradox. Anyway.
Yes.
We'll say no more. Okay. Now, I got to ask this question because have you actually dabbled with Gutenberg at all?
I have.
What do you think could be made to make the UI better? And this is a long list, probably.
I still find it's not inspiring because it's something you use when you do posts. And because it's something that I was used to seeing when I worked with WordPress, we're going back 15 years now. It feels like it hasn't moved on a lot. Yes, there's a little bit of a change in the way it looks, but you drop in an image you then got to click here, there, and everywhere to like center align it or change it or something like that. And sometimes for anyone who's not used to looking for the answer, you got to think a little bit about your settings. And I just find that they've got to do something to make the interface just feel more inviting, more, I don't want to say dynamic, but more futuristic. And it's because yes, it's easy to use. Yes, when you get a head around it, you can do good stuff, decent stuff with it, but it just feels dated, and it's a bit like, if like I could give you a car that was built 100 years ago and you can drive in it and you can get from A to B, but are you going to like the look of it? And you might say, yes, you are going to love the look of it, but I just think that it needs a little bit of an enhancement, because compared to Elementor, Divi, Oxygen, Breakdance, Bricks, all these other tools, it just doesn't have that sell-on factor for me at the moment. And I'm happy using Gutenberg or WordPressy tools when I'm doing a post, when I'm writing a post. But that at the minute is all I'll do. However, you got Quickly, you got all these other tools that take it to the next level. But I really feel like I would love it if they did something where Gutenberg did all of that stuff and then the Quicklies do the extra stuff. So, there might be some stuff that the Happy Add-ons plugin does or QI add-ons. That's the add-on which enhances what you got. At the moment with Gutenberg on its own, I feel is flat. You add on Quickly or something else, it goes to the next level. But I think Gutenberg should be like, this is a great level. Now the other stuff is there if you want to use it. But I know their roadmap is, I don't think they're ever going to make it a powerful page builder, because they quite like the fact that they have a third party, add-on plugin community, because they love to support add-ons and stuff like that. But yeah, I've had a look at it, but I didn't get that rush of adrenaline, like, oh, I really want to use it. But yeah, that was missing for me.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest problems, I just pull up a copy of Gutenberg now. I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to working with Gutenberg is there's just a shed load of stuff going on that most of us don't need.
Yeah.
And the interface just feels like every time you want to add a block in, you have to open up the panel. Because once you select the block, the panel disappears. And there's also, take out the sort of top 7 options there. That's literally just generate blocks. But everything else is standard default Gutenberg. That's a hell of a lot of stuff that most of them didn't care about. Now, I know you can go in and you can enable or disable the various different options inside the different widgets, elements, whatever you want to call them. But why not disable the majority of the things that most people are never going to use, like the embed options and those things? Maybe keep the panel open, or at least have the option to pin the panel to the left-hand side. Because great, if you're working on a laptop with the lowest resolution, like I've got a little sort of like just this demo page kind of thing here, which is quite a small window on my screen. It makes sense you close that down because you can't see a lot of what you're doing on the main window. But most designers, most people that are going to be using this are probably going to have bigger layouts, bigger screens and higher resolution anyway. I'm literally using half of my screen. So, and the things like only now in the latest version do you get the ability to drag and drop content in the list view. In version 6, we had to wait this long to get drag and drop. Prior to that, you just sort of like a different plugin to do it. And then, coming over to the right-hand side, it all starts to get just a little bit all over the shop.
And that's the bit that really annoys me. Like, so the left-hand side, you can't even shrink or enlarge it like you can do with Elementor with, when you have your widgets. And then you got all this stuff on the right and you are jumping. You're literally like that. And I find it just gets like, it just makes me brain dead. Like, even when I do posts, I just go title, content, image, whatever you're going to do. And that's it. Featured image, and then I kind of run away. And I don't want to get back into Elemental zone and have fancier stuff. But I just, I hear so much excitement about Gutenberg, and I know there's people that are really passionate about it, but I just kind of go, it's like the Pepsi Max you buy that is flat because it's never been in a fridge, and you were duped. It's so flat. It tastes like it tastes like just raw vinegar.
Nice.
Raw vinegar is probably nice, but no, but it just tastes really wrong. You know, it's not the right standard.
No, I think the problem for me when it comes to, well, two things with it. The problem I think with Gutenberg is there seems to be too many people working on it, and they've all got different agendas. You know, you got one department that's working on accessibility, one that's working on something else, one that's working on something else, and the end result feels really disjointed.
Yeah.
But for me, the closest I've actually come to a page builder like experience has been with the latest version of GenerateBlocks. Now, I've been building some sites and things. I did a tutorial the other day, and that actually starts to feel a lot more intuitive, very much like how I would work with Elementor if I was using the Flexbox and containers and things. So it feels more natural. But I think this is kind of being left to those third-party tools to make Gutenberg a usable platform.
Yes. You know? Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, I feel like that's slightly the wrong way to look at it almost. They need to kind of make Gutenberg be a great WordPress standard, and then the add-ons take it to the next level if you want to go to that next level. But if you don't want to go to that next level and you don't want to pay for it, you know that Gutenberg as just a standard is good for you, because there's going to be 90% of the market out there, you know, the people that run a library or have a cake shop or something. They just want a raw, basic website. That is how you're going to make it much more accessible, you know, from a WordPress point of view, really.
I think Gutenberg is only, we call it raw Gutenberg, is only really good for creating posts. You know,
exactly. Yeah.
But there are so many things that have taken so long. I mean, what are we talking? 3.5, 4 years now since Gutenberg was released, and literally again in version 6, I believe, or maybe like 5.9. Only then do we get the ability to select multiple paragraphs. Prior to that, you literally could only select the text inside a paragraph, inside one paragraph. I mean, who in the usability department looked at that and thought, do you know what we need? 4 years in, the ability to select more than one paragraph. We'll sell to the world, even though it's free. And you're kind of thinking, oh, come on. You know, you kind of think you'd sit down at some point and go, these are the core usability features that we need to have to make this viable, to transition people away from the classic editor way of working, where you could select all your text, your paragraphs, make things bold, highlight, drop an image where you wanted, all those kinds of things. We need all of these basic core features, and then we can look at the other things on top. We build those core features, we launch with those core features. And someone's gone, nah, just slap a pile of bits and pieces together, you're fine.
It's almost like they've ignored the fact that why did all of these page builders occur? Why did Divi happen? Why did all of these things pop up out of nowhere? Because they took it to another level and they did things differently. But here they've just they're evolving at a very slow rate.
Backwards.
And you could say, oh, in 10 years' time it will be as good as, say, Bricks or other solutions out there. But then in 10 years' time, Bricks should have moved. Bricks will be rebranded and they'll call themselves Concrete. So, whatever.
Actually, there was Concrete. There was Concrete 5, wasn't there? Which is a CMS. There was a CMS called Concrete 5.
But so all the others will be, well, you like to think all the other page builders out there will evolve as well with time. But I think, it would be lovely if Gutenberg got to such a standard whereby when I am doing like your post within a WordPress website, you've got all this other fancy stuff. So you don't have to have a single post template, maybe. You've got all this fancier stuff there. But at the moment, like you said, you use it, create your post, forget about it, and then, just ensure your single post template is fine. But you don't really, I don't know, I just get like, I don't like to spend more than I need to when I'm on the current interface that we currently have, because it is just busy. It confuses me.
It is very busy, and I think it's overly busy. I think this is probably why what I said about GenerateBlocks is because they've kind of approached it from a different point of view. So, for example, like things we're used to, where when you insert an element or a widget when it comes to Elementor, when you kind of make changes to that and you switch your panels and you open different panels up, and then when you now go back to that widget, all the options in the same place. And in other words, whatever panel you had open last is what you'll go back to. Usability kind of thing. Well, that's exactly what you get with GenerateBlocks. When you open back up your container, or you'll go back into your header or your image or video, whatever option or panel you had open last is still open for you. So it's the little things like that that just make the experience a little bit more page builder like. And I think maybe they could do with getting someone in to look at this and go, right, let's take a look at this from a UI and a UX point of view. Let's take the functionality out of it, but let's look at, right, what are we failing on? What do we need to do? And poll the community, poll the users. What do you like? What don't you like? Get a understanding of what people want out of these kinds of things. And then get a team onto it to start creating that. And maybe then the adoption rate will be better than it currently is. But we're going to move on now, because we've talked about Gutenberg, we talked about Elementor. We're going to go on to Pixter's comment. Would you show and teach Imran the advantages of using dynamic data like custom post types and so on? I think Imran is still behind this awesomeness. Saying no more.
No. So I haven't had to build many websites using that, but I am, believe it or not, I don't know if Paul gets notified of this or not. I don't know if there used to be notifications, but I've just favorited all of the Jet Engine and CrocodileBlock videos and stuff like that, and stuff you did a year ago. So I'm planning to watch those on the weekend. So Pixar, don't worry, I am looking into that, mainly because I love building directory websites with the My Listing theme, but I'm slowly now thinking about maybe I could just move on to just building them from scratch completely in my own little way and whatever. So, but yes, don't worry, it's happening. And I am waiting for Paul to release his course that I know he's been working on.
Yeah, well, it will be coming. It will be coming.
Yeah.
But let's just talk about it from a business point of view at the moment. I mean, I don't want to sort of keep everybody too long, because, like I say, I'm conscious of the fact that I don't want to keep him around all evening. But like using a tool like the My Listing theme and the features that it kind of has, I totally get why people would use that. When you become comfortable with it, I can imagine you could probably put together a listing site in a day or two, and you know exactly where to go for things, you know exactly what it can offer, and then when a client comes along and you can listen to what they want, you say, oh, it sounds to me like you want this, and this is going to be the solution for you. So from a rapid development point of view, then totally makes sense to stick with a tool like that, because you can develop the site so much quicker.
Yeah.
But as I've said to sort of like in different live streams and videos and stuff before, I think when you understand how powerful tools like, custom post types, whatever tool you use, whether it's ACF, Jet Engine, Metabox, or any of those, when you kind of start to see where you can go with that, when a client comes along, you can, where you had limitations then, for example, because I mean, all these different sort of listing things, they have limitations. You have to work within the confines of how they envisage their listing product to work. And sometimes that can be frustrating because it doesn't do what a client wants. And therefore, you kind of think, how can I, for want of a better word, bastardize the theme and the plugins that are part of it to create what they want? And that opens up a can of worms. I've lived that dream in the past before now. But I think there's a different client and a different pricing bracket that you would have to look at to move into creating those more bespoke dynamic platforms. So I think if you can set yourself up as someone that has the skills in that area, I'm not talking just now to you Imran, I'm talking like to anybody that's kind of sort of dabbling in this or looking at sort of like moving forward with this. This is where you start to be able to potentially charge the big money, because
absolutely,
what you're effectively doing is saying, okay, you want this. There's tools out there that get close to it, but not exactly what you want. To create what you want, we're talking about building something from scratch. And if they have that budget and they have that ability to be able to allow you the time to do that, because obviously it's going to take the development time longer, you can charge a lot more money for it, because you take yourself up from being a WordPress, and this is no disrespect to anybody, because I've done tons and tons of projects like this, but you take yourself from being a WordPress person that works within the confines of the tools that are available, whether that's themes or plugins, and there are always limitations with those, to someone that goes to the next level where you become, you're not a developer, and I don't care what anyone says, you're not developing things, but you go to the next step. I think the easiest way to look at it is you buy a theme from somewhere like Envato, which has all the Visual Composer, Elementor, sort of like Slider Revolution, and it has 20 other things, and it has 400 different pre-designed layouts which you can pull from. It's like, and they all look amazing until you take the content out, and they look like crap.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but you kind of you're limited in what you can do there because you work inside the confines, and then you look at something like, for example, GeneratePress, or you take a look like the Hello theme if you want to work with Elementor, or any of those themes that are basically just bare bones themes, and you look at them to start off and you go, but there's not much in them. But that's the strength of them, because you can mold them to what you want. And I think that's where the strength of it comes in, using a good base theme, whether that's like GeneratePress or, any of those kinds of tools, and tools like Custom Post Type UI, ACF, MetaBox, whatever. You can then create pretty much anything you can envisage. And that's really where the power comes in, and the ability to charge good money for it. So you need to start learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, I'm excited to start looking into that anyway. So, and that's kind of my intention as well. I want to move away from relying on some themes, which do have limitations, and I prefer to be the master of my own destiny. Like, I prefer to be in control and not waiting for a developer to get back to you or something like that. So yeah, I prefer that route.
Yeah, never underestimate how powerful using those tools are, and it's why I kind of say to people, it's why I kind of I niche down into that, because my background was I created my own CMS, with Dreamweaver and some rapid application tools and stuff like that. But the whole point of that was, and this is probably why I want Elementor to have taken that modular approach. I built the CMS in a modular way, so I had the core modules, and then if anybody wanted something else, I could build a module to bolt into it, and it become part of it. So it was integrated into the admin, integrated into the front end, and it all worked seamlessly together. And I think that's where I got my kind of passion for tools like ACF, CPTUI, Jet Engine, and those kinds of things, because that now allows me to take a platform like WordPress and expand that into pretty much anything you could want to create without the limitation. If you've got the knowledge and the skills, and you might have to do some coding and things like that if you want to go way beyond, but pairing that up with a really good base theme, you can do pretty much anything, and that's exciting. It is exciting. Okay, so Tomas, we're going to ask this question now. I don't know have you ever heard of Pinegrow, Imran?
No, I haven't. No.
Well, Pinegrow
Does it ring any bells with you?
Yeah, I like Pinegrow. I was going to actually sort of buy into it a little while back. Let me just open up a tab a second so we can kind of see. Now, Pinegrow is basically what can I say? Imagine like Dreamweaver and WordPress had a baby together. So you had the ability to use a visual development environment like a sort of hybrid between Gutenberg stroke page builder stroke sort of Dreamweaver. But what you could do is you can use that to either just build websites as normal. But what you can do with it is you can build themes for WordPress inside it. You can tie it into ACF, and you can use ACF inside Pinegrow, if I remember correctly. And then when someone has your theme, all those ACF-based features will be baked into the theme without the need to have ACF. So you can create, like my listing sort of theme, you could create something like this yourself and integrate all those options in. So it's using Tailwind CSS. You can connect it up with all the WordPress actions and so on. Even if you've never looked into it, honestly, pop over to pinegrow.com and just have a look at some of the videos on there, specifically the WordPress related ones, because it's kind of cool what you could do with it. So to answer Thomas's question, what are your thoughts on using Pinegrow for custom WordPress themes? I think if you want to go down that route to create, truly custom WordPress themes, it's a kind of cool way of doing it. I know I want to look into it a little bit more, but as with everything, it's just having the time to invest in learning a platform, researching the platform, and then thinking, okay, can I create content on that platform? But honestly, if you've never looked at it, just do a search for, or just go to pinegrow.com. And once you kind of go on there, have a look, watch the videos, because there's tons of videos on how to use it. It's actually pretty cool. It really is pretty cool to sort of like take a look at. Okay, so I'm going to say we're going to have 2 more questions. If anybody's got any more questions for myself or Imran, just put that hashtag Q. So look through all the comments a second. And then we'll take a look at answering those. And then we're going to kind of wrap things up because I'm conscious. Oh, excuse me. It's 9:10 and we've been on over an hour, which is nowhere near as long as Imran's live streams, which tend to last at least 2.5 to 3 hours every day. So they're not as long, but I also don't want to keep them all evening. So if you've got any questions, please do put hashtag Q. Otherwise, we're just going to waffle on about God knows what for the next 20 minutes. So
we're good at waffling.
Yeah, you don't want to be, you don't want to have to listen to that. So Daniel, let's pull this up. I found filtering and sorting with jet engine filters sorting to be sluggish. I can't disagree with you. I think they've kind of changed the way in which their filters and their searches and their sorting and so on have kind of been integrated in. It kind of seems like it's an Ajax refresh or something in there. And I've noticed the same thing myself, that it does kind of feel now that it wasn't the same as it was before, which was a little bit quicker in my opinion. So they've changed something, and I think it's to do with the Ajax calls or a sort of like a refresh that's kind of going on, which I'm not the biggest fan of. I mean, I'm taking you've noticed the same thing, Imran, when you're nodding your head?
Yeah. So we did a couple of sites. We were using Jet Smart filters, and I just found it cumbersome, and I literally had to say to the client, "We got to switch to something else because from a user experience, this is going to annoy the hell out of them, and they might start clicking more than once, thinking it wasn't quick enough or whatever." But yeah, I wasn't something. It troubled me so much. We just ended up using. I can't remember what we used now. I can't remember what we used, but it wasn't Jet Smart Filter in the end. We moved to something else.
Facet WP is good.
Yeah, Facet WP is good, yeah. But it was something else. I can't remember what it was.
Search and Filter
something
Pro?
else we used.
Search and Filter Pro?
No, I can't remember what it was. It was another third-party plugin, but it was... I just can't remember what it was.
Search and Filter Pro is good. That's pretty cheap. It's something like $20 I think for a license, something like that. But the nice thing with that is it's cheap. The nasty thing about it, I can't say nasty. The negative thing is it's not as user friendly as something like Facet WP or sort of like I can't think what the other one was. Something search, easy search or quick search, something like that. So it's good. It does a really good job, but it's not user friendly for beginners. You need to kind of get an idea of what the heck you're doing. Otherwise, it can be a little bit confusing. The other one to look at, though, if you want to have a listing and you want to have facets, which is basically your search and your filtering and so on, they just call them facets. Take a look at Grid Builder WP or WP Grid Builder, whichever you want. I don't know if they still got it going on, but there was a 30% sale going on. I've done 3 videos for them. So you can, if you just do a search on the channel for Grid Builder WP, you'll see how to use it. You can use it inside Oxygen. You can use it inside Elementor. I think it supports bricks now as well, or you can just use it via shortcodes. But you can also build your own custom loops out. It's a pretty good plugin with a ton of options. Let me just have a little look. I'll just put it up now. See if there's an offer on there at the moment. Grid Builder WP. No, we don't want WP Engine. Grid Builder WP. Let's have a little look. So pricing wise, I don't think there's an offer on. It looks like it's gone now. But they did have a discount on there. But this will give you the ability to create searches, filters, or facets. It gives you the ability to create your own custom sort of loop layouts, which, like I say, will integrate into anything you want. And you can use that simply with shortcodes if you want to. Or there's additional add-ons for Elementor, for Oxygen. Yeah, Beaver Builder supported Metabox, Oxygen, Elementor, multilingual support, caching, map facets, Learn Dash support. It should cover you for most things if you wanted it. But the nice thing with it is, if you don't want to use the loop builder, you just want to use the facets in the search, you can do that and just connect that up to Elementor.
I was just going to say that as soon as I saw Beaver Builder, I wanted to shut my eyes and thought, to turn the screen off. But yeah.
Don't be like that. That's horrible. So anyway, let's have a look. We actually had a couple more questions. Let's take those questions if they're sort of like, nice, polite questions. Okay. David, when's the next live stream? Definitely 2 weeks today, which is going to be what, the 20th? Oh, hang on. Yeah, the 20th. Yes, because it won't be the week after because I'll be at a festival. So yeah, I think it's the 20th. And maybe next week. We have no idea. But I'm sure Imran will be on that one as well. I think Imran's...
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind.
I gotta be honest. I mean, what are your thoughts on doing this? Because I just say, from my point of view, it makes my life so much easier having someone like Imran on, because it means that I'm going to talk anywhere near as much. It's great. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about having Imran on a regular basis. Can't have them more regular than we are now, because I think it's pretty much every week. But other than that, right, Pat, are you in the Elementor and CrockerBlock subreddits answering questions? From my point of view, no, I don't really use Reddit in the slightest. Reddit's a bit of a strange place. It's scary to go into.
Yeah, I find Reddit with like... you're going to get nice people, you're going to get not so nice people, but I tend to answer questions on the Elementor Facebook group. I find that a nicer place to be honest, and it's moderated as well. But no, I don't. I might go to subreddit to find a possible answer to a question I have, but I don't really contribute much to it.
Yeah, I've looked into Reddit, but I think the reality of it is, I speak for myself, and I'm sure Imran's probably the same as this, with creating YouTube content, with doing live streams, with working with clients and so on, there are only so many hours in the day, and we've both got families and we have commitments that are outside of sort of this side of things. So I think you can get sucked into these kinds of places and go down a massive rabbit hole. So no, Reddit isn't one of those things that I've really spent much time in. I popped in there to take a look and generally left quite quickly because... Like you say, it can be a bit of a strange place, a bit toxic at times. So no, I don't really go into the subreddits. Now, this one is a question for me. So this is from Tyler. Now, Tyler's been sort of showing me how fast his Gutenberg-based website is using GeneratePress and GenerateBlocks, and in honesty, it's a bloody good looking site. But Tyler basically is a photographer that does sort of trips to Iceland, and his photography is bloody amazing. So when am I coming to Iceland with you, Tyler? Do I have to pay? If I got to pay, it'll be a long time. If I don't have to pay, I'll be there tomorrow. But I would love to do one of those trips. I don't know. If it's a just bring your camera trip, then I'll be there, no problem at all. But I would love to go to Iceland and do the photography trip, because I mean the landscape is absolutely phenomenal. So yeah, I would love to do something like that. Okay, so I'm, like I said, conscious of the timing and everything. So what I'm going to do, if you don't mind, is I'm going to say we're going to start to wrap things up a little bit. But if you've got any questions or any comments you want for the next live stream, as always, either pop over to the Facebook group, which you can kind of join up if you're not already a member of. It's a fantastic place, to be involved. Lovely people on there, incredibly helpful. Imran's there as well. So by all means, pop over there. Just do a search for WPTuts on Facebook and you'll find the Facebook group to get involved. But if anybody would like to find out a little bit more about yourself, Imran, your website, your YouTube channel, and those kinds of things, how can they find out a bit more about you?
Just do a search on YouTube for Web Squadron. You'll find our channel. Our channel and our videos have links in there for our website. Maybe you want to hire us to work on a website or help you out with videos, or just Elementor generally, basically anything with WordPress, marketing, business, and Star Wars and anything else like that as well. But we do our own live chats. 9 times out of 10, they're daily. And we don't just talk about WordPress. In fact, we probably spend 90% of our time talking about everything else other than WordPress and Elementor. We talk about polar bears. We talk about losing weight, calories. We talk about families and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, just do a search for Web Squadron and you'll find us.
But no dieting polar bears.
No diet. No, we haven't done that. No, that's a good one. That's tomorrow's topic, everyone.
Yeah, see, you're missing a trick there. But as always, I want to say a massive thank you to Imran for taking the time out of his day and his evening to join us, answer our questions, answer your questions, and get involved. As I said, 2 weeks' time, which will be, I think, the 20th, we will be back on live streaming, and I'm sure Imran will probably be involved in that one as well, because it's been an absolute pleasure, as always, having you on. I may be on next week. You never know. We'll have to see what happens. But if not, make sure you hop over to Imran's channel, check out his live stream, which is pretty much daily. And yeah, give him a follow, give him a like, because he's doing an absolutely amazing job, and I can't thank him enough for being part of this tonight. So take care of yourselves, and we'll see you all in a couple of weeks' time. So thank you all for joining us, and yeah, take care.
See you soon, everyone. Bye.
Take care.